A very good evening to you and welcome to Primetime News on MTV Sports, live from the News First studios in Colombo. I'm Nadim Majid. I'm Sonali Manikvatake. We start off with a look at tonight's headlines. Making headlines tonight, a cargo vessel which was anchored off the coast of Panadura for a lengthy period sinks. Bashir Segu Dawood resigns from his deputy ministerial portfolio. University teachers take to the streets of Colombo demanding solutions to issues in the education sector. On to the news in detail. The Coast Conservation Authority says that oil has begun to seep out from the ship that sank off the coast of Panadura this afternoon. The ship that had been anchored off the coast of Panadura over a long period of time began sinking this afternoon. The Environmental Authority stated that the ship had around 70 tons of oil when it went down.
Which was anchored 3 nautical miles off the Panadura coast since 2007, was flying the Cyprus flag. The ship, which was carrying a stock of iron, was impounded by the Commercial High Court due to a conflict between the ship owner and the crew. As a result, the ship remained anchored off the Panadura coast. The Director of Merchant Shipping said that even though an order was issued by the Commercial High Court to tow the ship to Trincomalee, the owner of the vessel had filed an objection and obtained an order preventing this. The Director of Merchant Shipping, Ajit Senviratna, added that around 250 tons of oil had been removed from the ship to prevent harm to the environment, while the Ministry of Environment notes that around 70 tons of oil is still inside the ship. The ministry, issuing a communique, said that oil has started to seep from the tanks that supplied fuel to the generators. An oil patch around 100 meters in length had been detected around 5 nautical miles off the coast. General Manager of the Coast Conservation Authority, Rear Admiral S.R. Samarthunga, noted that it was unlikely that the oil would reach the shoreline. We have received reports of a leak through the Coast Conservation Authority. They are constantly keeping us updated. The Disaster Management Centre has taken the necessary steps at grassroots level to clean the shores if oil does reach the coastline. We will be working closely with the Coast Conservation Department as well as the other armed forces and carry out our activities 24 hours a day. One of the worst oil spills in the world occurred last year, the Deepwater Horizon spill, better known as the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, which flowed unabated for 3 months. The spill caused extensive damage to the marine and wildlife habitat and to the Gulf's fishing and tourism industries. In September 2011, the US government published its final investigative report on the incident. Most of the blame was put on the Deepwater Horizon operator Transocean.
Tilak Karunaratne, who resigned as the chairperson of the Securities and Exchange Commission, says that his resignation should be viewed as an eye-opener and that the authorities should allow the chairperson of the SEC to carry out his or her duties without fear or favour. Now, Karunaratne made this comment in an exclusive interview with News First last afternoon.
Days of suspense and speculation, the chairman of the Sri Lanka's Securities and Exchange Commission, Tilak Karunaratne, tendered his resignation to the Ministry of Finance and Planning last Friday.
I think my resignation should be taken as a good eye-opener, must be looked at it positively, and the people who have the power should appoint strong, decent, knowledgeable people to the positions in the SEC and allow them a free hand to carry on their duties without fear or favour. Then I think with the support of the Colombo Stock Exchange and the great majority of the broker community who are good, the future will be or should be bright.
Tilak Karunaratne also said that prior to his resignation as the chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission, he submitted a comprehensive report to the Committee on Public Enterprise or COPE on the investigations carried out by the Commission.
COPE requested us to submit a report on not only these investigations but on our activities when we were summoned before them a few weeks ago. And before my departure from SEC, I did a comprehensive report and sent it to Chairman Honorable Dugun Sekara on our progress work, on the work in progress as well as these investigations.
Meanwhile, COPE member parliamentarian Ravi Karanayaka expressed the following view.
So I think certainly there is a major erosion of confidence that is there. Today the Securities Exchange, which is the overall body that looks after the Colombo Stock Exchange, there are certain rules that are there. But manipulations that are going on seems to be overriding the overall interest of this country. So obviously there is undue pressure that is brought upon these people that are there as an independent body.
There is a debate on this. But that there is also room and space for any action if one party feels that there are any malpractices that has taken. Well, that will be investigated as to what his complaints are and then why he resigned, and that will be looked into by the Finance Minister.
Analysts say that the Securities and Exchange Commission should be allowed to operate independently to ensure investor confidence.
Regulation is a mechanism for regulating. It's to regulate markets, to make sure that the participants in some economic activity have assurance of a level playing field, that somebody is not getting special favors and another person is not being discriminated against. So in this kind of situation, it is customary to give higher degree of independence, not absolute, but a higher degree of independence than ordinary government organizations to these entities.
I urge the government to stop this charade and take legal action. Complete the so-called 17 investigations that Mr. Karunaratne said he has been started and just about to be completed. And thereafter, if people are found to have contravened the law, they have committed securities fraud, then take them to court. And if they are found guilty, throw them in jail.
In fact, the sad truth today is that the Colombo Stock Exchange has become, I would say, the premier center for money laundering east of the Suez Canal. We have now become renowned as a center for money laundering, for making black money white, and that is why I think the role of the regulator is becoming increasingly important, and the regulator must be given the due freedom to regulate independently of political interference.
Karunaratne's resignation is the second in less than a year after his predecessor also resigned in equally controversial circumstances.
A demonstration was held at Hyde Park in Colombo this afternoon demanding solutions for the current education crisis. It was organised by the Federation of University Teachers Associations.
The demonstration was held on the theme Save State Education. Trade unions in the education sector and civil society activists participated in the demonstration, which was organized to create awareness about issues that has arisen in the education sector, including the closure of universities, strike action launched by university lecturers and ZSCO issue. The demonstrators arrived at the location in 2 protest marches. It has been over 2 months since the university lecturers began their strike action based on 6 demands.
Protecting
the state does not mean increasing the number of ministers or appointing henchmen to ministries. Protecting the state means it should be converted to an institution which will ensure justice. They now ask if 6% is granted to the education sector. What is to be given to the other sectors? It is the education and health sectors that are most important.
Meanwhile, Secretary to the Federation of the University Teachers Associations, Dr. Terence Madhujit, stated that they are to meet the Secretary to the Ministry of Finance tomorrow to discuss the issues in the education sector.
Still in news from the education sector, the Sri Lanka Independent Teachers Union says that it will not withdraw from marking the GCE Advanced Level Examination answer scripts. Issuing a communique, the union pointed out that they were astonished to hear that 2 teacher services unions had withdrawn from marking the A-level answer scripts in support of the strike action launched by the university lecturers.
The communique, bearing the signature of President of the Sri Lanka Independent Teachers Union, WSSJ Handapangoda, assured that as teachers who had taught students for 13 years with much affection, they would ensure the future of these students by marking their answer scripts. The communique noted that despite there being shortcomings in the question papers, it is an acceptable norm for every teacher to engage in marking the answer scripts and allocating the highest possible marks for every student in a fair manner. It added that they do not accept using students as pawns to win demands, despite they too believing that a reasonable solution must be given to the salary issue of university lecturers and a higher budgetary allocation being made for the country's education sector.
Speaking at a media briefing today, UNP parliamentarian Karu Jayasuriya said that the Pancha Maha Balavega, or the 5 elements that propelled the SLFP to victory in 1956, have now been forgotten by the party.
In
1956, the 5 main groups worked hard to propel the SLFP into power. But today, these groups are either moving away from the party or taking to the streets against the party. The government either follows a deaf, dumb and blind policy with regard to these protests, or it uses tear gas and batons and sometimes bullets to disperse them. They are putting on various band-aid solutions and carrying on without resolving the problems.
බැටන් ප්‍රහාර එල්ල කරලා එහෙම නැත්නම් සමහර අවස්ථාවල වෙඩි තියලා විවිධ පැලස්තර අලවෙමින් මේ ප්‍රශ්න විසඳන්න නැතුව ඉදිරියට යනවා.
And up next is a look at the newspaper cartoon of the day.
Maldivian President Mohammad Wahid, who is on a 2-day official visit to Sri Lanka, met President Mahinda Rajapaksa this afternoon. A warm welcome was accorded to the Maldivian President and his delegation on arrival at the Presidential Secretariat. The 2 heads of state later held bilateral discussions. Attention was focused on further strengthening bilateral ties between the 2 countries.
Moving on to other local news, Chairman of the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress, Bashir Segu Dawood, has decided to resign from the post of Deputy Minister of Cooperatives and Internal Trade. In a letter addressed to the President explaining his decision, Bashir Segu Dawood states that he arrived at this decision in order to engage in election propaganda activity for the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress. Now, he pointed out that since the SLMC is contesting independently at the Eastern Provincial Council election, they should not have any connections with the government. The letter went on to note that he does not wish to engage in election propaganda activity by using state assets and the government's goodwill. The letter added that he took this decision as he wished to engage in election propaganda activity of the SLMC with a clean slate.